What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. 2 videos left in the road to predict all 136 FBS level college football teams this summer. The final day of predictions. It's been a long journey. Thank you all so much for all your support over these past 2 months. And we kick the final day off in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The Tulsa Golden Hurricane are up for 2025 predictions. My name is Nate Both, otherwise known as Tailgate Nate. Thank you all so much for clicking on the video, for helping to support the channel, and for sticking with me all throughout prediction season. If you want to support the channel during the college football season, go down below, hit that subscribe button, and while you're at it, ring the bell so you get locked in to every single video that I upload on the channel, as well as follow me on social media. I'm a sports media graduate delving into the professional world of the industry. You want to see all the cool stuff I get up to? Go follow me at TailgateNate29, Twitter, Instagram, and feel free to even email me, tailgatenate29@gmail.com. I want to thank you all so much for supporting and interacting with me and the channel in whatever way you may be doing so. Another great period of growth right here on YouTube during prediction season. But let's get down to business, shall we? There's a new head coach in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the final team out of the American Athletic, and it is Trey Lamb. He is coming over from East Tennessee State, but is most notably known for his time at Gardner-Webb. During his time at Gardner-Webb, overall had some pretty solid campaigns, took them to two NCAA FCS level playoff appearances, including a second-round appearance in 2022. Last year with East Tennessee State, went 7-5, has a career record right around 500, but is getting that next step and is getting that level up to coach here at the FBS level, and we'll figure out how good his team is going to be right now. We're going to go through a roster preview. That's how this works. Offense over here to the left, defense over here to the right, and at the end of the video, we'll go through the Golden Hurricane football schedule. I'll give it a game-by-game preview and prediction, and this video overall is here to tell all of you what I think about the Tulsa Golden Hurricane here in 2025. Now, before we do get started, we're going to take a look right down below me. Returning production numbers are according to ESPN. They factor in portal additions up to a certain percentage. And what's more, your recruiting and transfer portal ranks for the class of 2025 are both according to 24/7 Sports. Your offense begins again over here on the left-hand side. Brad Robbins is your offensive coordinator. Let's explore the Golden Hurricane offensive unit. Your most prolific quarterback last year in Kirk Francis is going to be coming back. You had a couple guys in this quarterback room for the Golden Hurricane last year. Cooper Legos was the other one. He has ran out of collegiate eligibility, and he still had a solid season for the Golden Hurricane last year. So did Francis. I mean, it wasn't anything spectacular. 1,585 yards, 9 touchdowns, 6 interceptions on right around 59% completion percentage. So he's going to return to lead this quarterback position out of the two quarterbacks that played majority of the time last season as well. Legos had the ability to get outside of the pocket and be able to scramble. You don't really see that with Kirk Francis. He is that pure pocket passer and had nearly 100 more passing attempts than Cooper Legos did last year. Otherwise, though, he only had around 400 yards more. He didn't have as many touchdowns as Legos, and again, way more passing attempts. So you do got to see Kirk Francis take a step up in this offense, really develop himself as a leader, really be able to develop himself into this offensive system. You've got to see some improvement. Again, 9 touchdowns, 6 interceptions last year. I mean, if you can get up to that 12 number at the very least, you need to be able to do that in that amount of passing attempts that you had last season, which was 253. I think you'd like to see, obviously, Kirk Francis expand his game, try to get to that 20 touchdown mark, get to that 2,500 yard mark, so on and so forth. It starts with staying consistent, staying healthy. You should be able to see some period of growth or some level of growth with Kirk Francis this year. How much that is, I don't know if I'm going to be able to tell you that. There are a couple other guys in this room, such as Stephen Kittleman, who played a tiny bit last year, and then a transfer in Baylor Hayes that does come over to this program. He is an East Tennessee State transfer, so you could very well see Trey Lamb go with him at points this season as well, being familiar with the way Trey Lamb likes to run a football team. let's get into your running back room. Your running back stable is going to be overhauled entirely. All your leading rushers from last season are going to be gone. And albeit this is a running back room that very much so was by committee driven. You did not have anybody, including quarterbacks. Nobody had even more than 90 carries last season. But you are going to be losing your top guys. Anthony Watkins, believe, is out of eligibility, so here he is done. Viren Ellison has transferred over to Delaware, so you aren't going to be having any more of him this season. Bill Jackson transferred over to Northern Iowa. He was your third leading rusher. And then one more down the line, Lloyd Avant transferred over to Colorado State. So that's 4 running backs that all had at least 60 carries last year are all gone. So again, really showing that this room is revamped. It's revamped by the transfer portal. A.J. Allen, a former Nebraska Cornhusker, then went to Miami, was at FIU last year. He's transferring over here to Tulsa to hopefully have probably what I think a lot of people would consider the best season of his career. Dominic Richardson is transferring in from Baylor, formerly of Oklahoma State. Had over 500 yards in 2023. Okay, that's a good pickup. And then Savion Morrison is here as well. 164 yards, 2 touchdowns for him at Kansas last season. To me, A.J. Allen and Savion Morrison are going to be those two guys that really do highlight this unit. Now, according to ourlads.com, A.J. Allen's supposed to be that starting back, and Savion Morrison is supposed to be that third string back. But I got a pretty good feeling they're going to be that 1-2. However, Dominic Richardson, I do think is going to get his amount of carries this year. So look for it to be still a little bit more of a by committee room this year. You do have a returner in Braylon Presley that did not play much last year, and if it's going to be that by committee room, he could get some solid amount of carries as a very experienced player. But A.J. Allen's a redshirt junior, and then both Dominic Richardson and Savion Morrison are both redshirt seniors. So you still got a lot of experience in this running back room, a lot of good, high potential, high upside talent in through the transfer portal. We'll see what works in the running back room this year. All right, going to go run through this wide receiver room really quickly. Your lead receiver, Camden Benjamin, is gone among a lot of other pieces. Benjamin had 822 yards and 6 touchdowns with the team last season. Joseph Williams transferred off to Colorado, etc., etc. What's more is you are going to be losing your lead tight end, Luke McGarry. He is also going to be exiting through the portal. He is off to the Houston Cougars. So what do you have coming back in this pass catching room? There are still some solid, viable weapons here. Zion Steptoe, little over 200 yards last year. He'll be coming back to be one of the leaders. Grayson Tempest, among a few other returners. Jeremiah Ballard is there as well, but you do have a lot of transfers coming in here as well. Zion Booker is a Western Carolina transfer. You have Micah Tease, who's a Texas A&M transfer, and then probably the most notable guy you're getting in through the portal is Mekhi Miller coming over from Missouri. I think he's a really high potential piece that as of right now is probably going to sit behind someone in a reserve capacity, but very well could make his way to being a starting piece. What's more, in your tight end room, that's pretty much going to be built through the transfer portal. You have Brody Foley that's going to lead, and then Landon Lucas is going to be transferring in here as well. Brody Foley is an Indiana transfer, while I believe Landon Lucas, yes, he's coming over from Robert Morris. So there's your rebuilt pass catching unit, and then you take a look at your offensive line. O-line turnover sees only one spot occupied by a returning talent. That's your right guard, and particular. Everything else, transfers. Most of this 2 deep, all going to be built through the transfer portal. And the offensive line saw some good moments. There were moments that struggled last year, allowed 26 sacks. That's not as bad as we've seen out of some other teams, but that is right over 2 sacks per game. So definitely want to get that number down. 4 yards per carry, definitely a pretty solid number there for this running back room. The offensive line obviously helping with that. Improvement definitely can be made, but it really is a more intriguing room than anything because you want to see how all these portal pieces fit together. So overall, offensively, I think if Kirk Francis can take the step in the right direction and a lot of these portal pieces fit into the pass catching room well, I think you have some really high upside in your defensive room, so on and so forth. Now, when you move on over to talk about this Tulsa defense, Josh Reardon being your defensive coordinator, there's an improvement that can be made pretty much everywhere, although the run defense did see some solid, pretty okay moments at points last year. This secondary needs to take one hard look in the mirror from last year. And I think it's going to be a massive focal point for Trey Lamb this season. They allowed over 300 yards passing last year, and I think allowed opposing quarterbacks to complete nearly 2/3 of all passes that they threw last year. This secondary's got to find something and step up. We'll get there when we get there. Let's start with the defensive front. Most of your D-line starters, including a lot of your sack leaders from last season, are going to be off and gone. The most notable piece there, R.J. Jackson, transferred over to Central Florida. You are also going to lose another really talented piece in Owen Ostrowski, who is transferring over to Northern Iowa as well. Lots of guys transferring out there to Northern Iowa. Another guy there, Von Troy Malone. He's going to go be a really good piece with the Iowa State Cyclones. And honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, you could definitely argue that he is the most important defensive lineman loss that this team has. So it's going to be a senior-ridden group, but not based off of returners, based off of what you get through the transfer portal. Your entire starting defensive line, including the jack position, you can sort of play him in the linebacker. It's that edge rushing type player, are all redshirt seniors. They all come in through the transfer portal. Byron Turner, Tim Hardiman, Nakai Johnson, and then at that jack position is Jadan Burnett. So all of those guys, redshirt seniors, they'll all be transferring in here to play in a defensive line role for the Golden Hurricane. Let's take a look at your linebacking room. It also sees some overturn, however, not as much as the line. You get some really nice returning pieces. Now, albeit you do lose a lot of talent, yes, for sure. That does include your leading tackler in Gavin Potter, who had 75 suckers last year. However, a top 5 tackler in Chris Thompson Jr. is going to be returning 49 tackles and a sack for him last year. I think he'll be a massive piece for this linebacker room and for this defense as a whole. You get some other returners, albeit young talent, but that'll sit behind. Buda Garrett is definitely one of those names, and he's going to back up that star position this year. And Devin Robinson is projected to step into that, and that's a role that you can categorize as a linebacker, as a defensive back, whatever you so please. So that's sort of what this linebacker room is going to look like. Oh, and silly me, transfer coming in, Ray Coney, probably going to end up being a pretty big part. He's an East Tennessee State transfer, so not only a really talented player, a guy that is familiar with the Trey Lamb system, how he likes to run a football team. Your defensive back room, okay, we're starting to get back into your defensive line conversation, right? A lot of your big defensive back pieces do leave. Now, I did tell you, this is a secondary that was horrid at defending the pass last year. They might have been the worst secondary in college football. I would have to fact check that. Maybe someone can do that for me so I can move on here. But you are still going to be losing some really talented pieces, period. Dane Hodge is a transfer going over to Youngstown State. Malachi Jones has utilized eligibility. I believe he has since graduated, if not is finding a home with a different program I may not be aware of, so on and so forth. You do still have some solid returning pieces here. Nunu Campbell was a great piece last year that sort of came along. Projected to ourlads.com right now, he is a third stringer, but I think he's going to end up getting a lot more time than that. And your safety duo coming back is big. And they were not a starting safety duo last year, but getting returners in those 2 points, I think, are huge. And you got one really young guy, a true sophomore in Zach Williams that had some good moments last year, and then a graduate student in Jalen Kennedy. So that's going to be your safety duo, while your corners are both entering through the transfer portal. That's J.D. Drew and that's Anthony Roth. Both your primary kicker and punter are going to return to the 918 special teams unit. 918 is the area code in Tulsa. It's kind of a thing of if you know, you know. So there's your special teams report, because kickers are people too. We got to show them some love for the Tulsa Golden Hurricane. I still think this is the team that's going to struggle. However, there's a lot of high upside prevalent, especially in this running back room. I think the defensive line can really ramp things up this season if a lot of those transfers fit in nicely. This is a team that has got some solid pieces, and while Trey Lamb did nothing spectacular in any sense of the word, he really did not do anything super special. Again, a career record in the FCS coaching right around 500. He is a very young, very talented mind that can definitely lead this Tulsa team to doing a lot better than expected this year. Well, what exactly are they expected to do? Well, you can look down below me at those odds from FanDuel to find that out. Before you do that, You can take a little gander and a peek at the 2025 Tulane football schedule. There are a lot of interesting games here on the calendar, especially in that non conference slate. Before we again fully dive on into this, let's turn your attention back to those FanDuel odds. They are current as of recording this video, and something I would like to note as we get later on here in prediction season, again, final day, the highest odds that you could get on FanDuel originally when I started, diving into the group of five realm fully to get into the college football playoff was plus 10,000. That's only reserved for a few select teams now. And Tulsa does have plus 5,000, which is the new highest odds that you can get. So that 5,000 odds to get into the playoff is acting as that 10,000. Tulsa's got a long shot to get to the playoff and a long shot to win their conference, although they are not towards the bottom of the ranks, interestingly. Well, they are, but they're not at the way bottom like you may think. 3.5 as that over under win total. So again, that is the expectation level. There's a lot of talent here that can lead them to the over, but also a lot of change that could definitely lead them to the under on that as well. I think it's going to be a fight to reach the over as we start to take a look at the schedule. Hey, I do think you win that first game of the year against Abilene Christian. Abilene Christian's going to lose Maverick McIver and a lot of other talented pieces that are now moving on to either other FCS programs or, in the case of Maverick McIver, moving up to the FBS level. And I think Abilene Christian's going to lose some really solid pieces. While I think it's still a solid team, I just overall have them struggling. Okay, so you win your first game of the season against your FCS opponent. I think it's all downhill from here. There are a lot of games on this schedule that you can look at and say, oh, yeah, we definitely can win that. But I am of the mind, I think Tulsa and Trey Lamb are going to need a lot of time together. Trey Lamb's going to need a lot of time in this program to really boost things up and figure things out. So let's go through these games one at a time, talk about some more than others. You guys know how it works. On the road against New Mexico State. New Mexico State still, I don't think is going to be that fantastic of a team, but they are going to be better than they were last year, and they got a lot of really solid pieces that are going to give Tulsa fits, especially if the secondary is still going to be as poor as it was last year. Logan Fife is coming in at quarterback. He's got some good wide receiver pieces, such as TJ Pride, a transfer, and TK King, so on and so forth. There are some really good pieces in that room. And defensively, returning guys like DeCarrick Hobbs and Tyler Martinez are going to mean really big things for this Aggie defense. They take a step up this year, and they beat Tulsa. Navy, they're going to be one of the best teams in the G5 realm and might very well be the best team in the American Athletic Conference. You didn't get a chance to watch Navy last year. Watch them this year and watch out for number 11, French Fries on the offense. Blake Horvath is fantastic, and he very well, like Bryson Daly did at Army last year, is going to be in that running, if not might even win the damn thing, which is the offensive player in conference. No, not Conference USA, in the American Conference. Blake Horvath very well could be up for that award. Navy, I think, is going to improve some of their defensive tactics from last year and can absolutely give a run towards that G5 spot in the college football playoff. Then you get a short week on the road against Oklahoma State, and to me, there is no way the Cowboys have as poor of a year this year as they did last year. It seemed like everything went wrong in that program. There were a lot of really uncertainty things going on there. Some players that didn't step up and play to the level we had seen them play at before, so on and so forth. Oklahoma State's probably going to hang right around that bowl game tier. And look, if there's one coach in the country you never count out, which I believe there's multiple, but the guy that especially exemplifies that is a guy by the name of Mike Gundy. You simply don't count him and his team out, and Oklahoma State's going to improve from where they were last year, and that includes beating their in-state opponent in the Tulsa Golden Hurricanes. So now you're fully going to dive on into conference play here. Again, you do have this weird non-conference game slotted towards the end of the schedule. Get there when we get there. But, I mean, welcome to American Conference play this year, right? You got to play Tulane, and then you got to go on the road to play Memphis. Tulane, I think, is going to be that more tricky game, even though it is at home. And even though the Green Wave are going to lose Darian Mensah, he is off to play quarterback at Duke. They're going to lose Mekhi Hughes. He is going to go be a stud in the Big Ten with the Ducks. Let's go Ducks. This is a Tulane team that is still probably has the best head coach in the conference in John Sumrall. No, not Willie Fritz again. John Sumrall, who helped Tulane get to the conference championship game last year. There are a lot of pieces that are going to be awesome this year. And that quarterback position, while this team has a lot of talent on it still, that quarterback position is really interesting. Caden Samanza, I think, can push for the starting job. Obviously, with the whole Jake Retzlaff situation, he's found a home there in New Orleans. So a lot of interesting storylines with Tulane, but that's still a good football team. Tulsa drops it. On the road against Memphis, you'll drop that one as well. I'm aware that Memphis loses everybody from last year, and that includes Seth Hennigan, a lot of his weapons, a lot of good defensive pieces. But the foundation that has been built here for Ryan Silverfield, is Memphis going to take a step back? Yes, I think getting double-digit wins is probably going to be a little bit of a stretch for this Memphis team, although they can very well still have the capability to do it. Brendan Lewis, transfer has emerged as that starter there. I think he's going to be an absolute weapon for him, and Memphis has still got a lot of viable offensive and defensive pieces to help this team roll right along. First bye week of the season comes after that Memphis game, and then you get to go on the road play an East Carolina team that I think can also be fairly dangerous this season. East Carolina's got a lot of good pieces. Caden Hauser's coming back. A lot of his wide receiver pieces will be returning. Some good transfer pieces will come in to bolster up that defense. And East Carolina, while it wasn't a great season, took a nice step last year. I think they can take another one here in 2025. Temple coming up next. They got a new head coach this year in Casey Keeler and a brand new quarterback this season. Giovanni McCoy is going to be transferring in there after it originally being Texas State and then him leaving the Bobcat program to go over here and play in the American with the Owls. Temple is going to be a team that is going to see their fair share of struggles this year, as they just need to build up that talent level under Casey Keeler. But I love Keeler as a head coach. If Giovanni McCoy can slam together a lot of the things that we've seen him do as a college football player, you're going to see him be a really good piece for him this year. And I think Temple's still got a lot of guys that'll outduel and out-battle Tulsa. Temple will definitely be one of the teams that sit lower in the conference standings, but they are still more talented than Tulsa, I do believe, and that's going to be a win for the Owls. You move on now after your second bye week. You get to play the other Owl representation in the American. It's on the road against Florida Atlantic, and you will drop this game here. The Golden Hurricane will as well. Florida Atlantic has got a great quarterback wide receiver duo with Easton Messer being that wide receiver and Caden Veltkamp, that quarterback. They're both coming over from Western Kentucky to unite with a guy that was a former OC at Kentucky. His name is Zach Kittley. He'll be the youngest head coach in the country this year. So you actually have two really young head coaches squaring off here, which could make this one interesting. You have Trey Lamb, you have Zach Kittley. Only difference, Trey Lamb's been a head coach before. Again, just at the FCS level. Kittley's always been that offensive coordinator mind. So there could be something to play with that, but I do think that Kittley's got the more talented bunch, and Florida Atlantic will win that game. Home game here against Oregon State, but it's not going to matter, man. The Beavers flashed a lot of potential last year, just couldn't put everything together on a consistent enough basis to even get into a bowl game. They can absolutely do it this season. And getting in Malik Murphy over from Duke, a massive upgrade to a quarterback room that was very wishy-washy there in Corvallis last year. Again, they showed a lot of nice things, and they got all the talent to be able to put together a pretty nice season. So Oregon State beats Tulsa. And I know what everyone said about Army, right? No Bryson Daly, no Kanye Udo on the defensive side. There's no more Elo Mendoza, etc., etc. Army is still a very well-coached team. They're still going to be a very good team. And this is absolutely a Black Knights unit that I think is just, again, still going to be one of the better sides in the American this year, even after all they lost. And UAB, I know how much people have looked at me and said, look, Trent Dilfer's not a head coach, or I should say I have said before that Trent Dilfer's not a head coach that I fully believe in, and he has not done that great of a job. He's, again, just not a guy I like as a head coach. However, for UAB, they still got some solid pieces in here. There's going to be a good quarterback competition. There's going to be some nice defensive pieces. And again, much like Temple, much like Florida Atlantic, I think these are teams that have some compelling pieces, but will sit towards the bottom of the American Conference. However, I think UAB is still more talented than Tulsa, and they will be able to round out their season there with that win. And so that leads me to a 1-11 record for the Tulsa Hurricane. Again, it's in part that Trey Lamb did not do anything super special at the FCS level. I think it's going to take him some time to adjust to that next level of competition, especially being in a conference where you have a lot of the front runners in that G5 race, and you got to play them. Navy, Tulane, Memphis is still going to be a good team. Army's still going to be a good team. A lot of teams on their schedule that can surprise, some tricky non-conference games. This is absolutely going to be a Tulsa team I think really struggles this year until they can start to build up that talent level and until they can start to really see that improvement factor under Trey Lamb. I think this is going to end up being a Tulsa team that can flash some good moments, but overall does struggle and finishes with that low overall record of 1-11. We got one more team left. We're going to Kent, Ohio next. Remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. See you guys later today for the final prediction video for 2025. Goodbye.